Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we are talking Thomas Sankara. I did not learn about this man in school. I didn't learn about him in history. I learned about this man on a YouTube video specifically done by Adiola Afayan. I probably butchered that name, but yeah, he's one of Africa's leaders. You just have to do your own research on limited information, obviously, but at least let's start from somewhere. And I'm sure there is many more like him, but we just don't know about them. And I'm hoping this video will do that some justice to at least start the conversation as to who this man is and what went down in history, at least what we could find. And if there's any points of correction at any point, we love that. We will continue to do so, but at least let's start here. If this is your first time seeing my face, being on this channel, I am OHLEEN, and on this channel we talk all things Africa, all things news, developments, not breaking news, but definitely things that are happening. We discuss them, we digest them to see how we can keep having healthy conversation and keeping things at the forefront, so lest we forget essentially, and what we take away from some of the stories that are coming out from the continent. Anyway, thank you for being here. On to the video. So Thomas Sankara, his full name is actually Thomas Isodere Noel Sankara, and he was a Burkina Faso military captain. He was a Marxist revolutionist, a pan-Africanist, and the president of Burkina Faso from 1983 to 1987. He was born in a region called Yako, Upper Volta, and as a French colony, this is what Burkina Faso was known as at the time. Growing up, it's said that his parents hoped that he would become a priest, but he chose the military path, which makes sense given the history of the country and what was front and center at the time. So he trained in Madagascar and he trained in France. Sankara is known to be charismatic as an army captain, and he gained his reputation for being very principled and very pro-people, his people, and very, very, very anti-corruption. Now, something very common about this part of the world, he did come into power through a coup, and I'm going to try to piece together what I could find and in the most simple way break down how the coup happened essentially. So it's 1981 and he is appointed as Secretary of State for Information, but he resigned in protest over government policies. And then in 1983, he is appointed Prime Minister under President Jean-Baptiste Ouédraogo. I'm sorry in advance, butchered that. My attempt. That's my best attempt for now. Sankara was appointed Prime Minister under President Jean-Baptiste. The full name is on the screen. I'm not going to even attempt, but his radical views and his popularity, growing popularity, alarmed the ruling parties and the ruling elites, and he was put on house arrest in 1983. It was this house arrest that sparked widespread protests, especially from young soldiers, from the young people, from students. On August 4th, 1983, his close friend and fellow revolutionary captain Blaise Compaoré, I think, yeah, I should have listened in French. I'll put the name on the screen, okay? His friend, his fellow military friend, organized a coup to free Sankara and install him as head of state. The coup was bloodless and largely popular, with Sankara announcing this as the beginning of a democratic and popular revolution. So essentially, that's how the coup happened. Now, Thomas Sankara was assassinated on October 15th, 1987 at the age of 37. And this assassination was a coup to get him out of power, and this coup was organized by the same mate that got him out of house arrest. How are you going to get me out of house arrest to put me into a seat that you will then assassinate me out of? Not just assassinate, you organize the same coup that you... It's not making sense. It's giving someone has dirt on you and you have to but do this otherwise. It's giving you a fake from the beginning, but that's not even making sense in itself. It's just not making sense. What are they giving you to betray to that degree? Your own mate, your own friend. It's not making sense. For me, it's not making sense. Like I said, he had been president for 4 years and 2 months by the time he was assassinated. He was shot in the back along with 12 other people during a meeting. And it is said that evidence about the shooting was tampered with, which fueled allegations that the French government was heavily involved. So this is alleged. Moving on to some famous quotes by Thomas Sankara. During an interview in 1985, Thomas said, "You cannot carry out fundamental changes without a certain amount of madness. It comes from non-conformity, the courage to turn your back on the old formulas, the courage to invent the future." Another famous quote, another very strong, very ahead of his time quote that is taken from a speech by Thomas Sankara is from his Women's Day speech, which was on March 8th, which is present day Women's Day, International Women's Day. In 1987, Thomas Sankara said, "There is no true social revolution without the liberation of women. May my eyes never see and may my feet never take me to a society where half the people are held in silence." So you can see already he seemed very much ahead of his time. He seemed very much a tester of existing mind frames and challenging the way people saw and thought. We are on to number 8 of my points on Sankara. So he was known as a skilled guitarist. He would play in local bands and he would use music to connect with the community and to spread his message of social justice. Thomas Sankara was a staunch anti-imperialist. He rejected foreign aid. He rejected loans from institutions like the IMF, famously stating, "He who feeds you controls you." He believed African nations should achieve self-sufficiency to escape neo-colonialism. The same thing we're still talking about and aiming for today. The 10th point on my list is the fact that Thomas Sankara was a fervent Pan-Africanist. He called for African unity to resist exploitation. He drew inspiration from figures like Che Guevara, and at a summit in 1987, he spoke against debt on the continent. Sankara was known for living a very simple life compared to the life he could have opted for or he had access to living. He reduced his own salary to $450 per month. He was known for banning air conditioning in his own office and selling government luxury cars. He worked alongside citizens in community projects, which reinforced his popular image. Sankara vaccinated 2.5 million children against meningitis, yellow fever, and measles in weeks, reducing infant mortality from 20.8% to 14.5%. His literacy campaign raised the rate from 13% to 73% by 1987. Sankara combated desertification by planting over 100 million trees and building 7,000 village nurseries. He promoted sustainable agriculture through volunteer-led irrigation and dam projects. Again, very much ahead of his time, because these are the same things we are trying to still implement in today's world. In Ouédraogo, Sankara converted his army's provisioning store into Burkina Faso's first state-owned supermarket, open to all citizens, which symbolized his push for equitable access to resources. Thomas Sankara's approach definitely did not go without criticism, and some of the criticism is definitely worth paying attention to. For example, there is criticism especially towards what looked and felt like total authoritarianism. I can't say the word, guys. I'll put it on the screen. Okay, let's do it together. Authoritarianism. Guys, I'm just bringing you the information, okay? English is not my first language, but I think you get what I mean. An example, let's go by example, okay? In 1984, 7 people who were linked to a prior regime were executed for treason, and this was seen as a very strong approach, and certainly against human rights. There are several other examples, but this is just one that really stood out to me. Similar to many people who pass on, who made an impact but become more and more known after their death, Thomas Sankara's ideas live on, and they mainly live on through music, through publications, and through protests. His slogan, which is translated from French to homeland or death, we will win, became a rallying cry during the 2014 uprising against Compaoré. The ongoing conversation is the comparison between Thomas Sankara and Ibrahim Traoré, who is the current president or leader of Burkina Faso. Even though Ibrahim's story is still being written, many Burkinabés are saying he is a reincarnation of Thomas Sankara. They definitely are two similar individuals, and the sort of things that make them similar are the fact that they're both the youngest leaders of their time. They both rejected French governance and neo-colonialism. However, Sankara's ideology were more policy driven, and Traoré is still forming his legacy. He's definitely more about partnership, like his conversations that we're seeing ongoing with Russia. They're very much about building alliances, but just from a different angle, and alliances rather than dependency, I think I can say, because history on the continent has been very much about dependence rather than partnership. He has also aligned with other military-led governments like Mali, Niger, showing signs and focus on a pan-African unit rather than focusing on communicating any deep social or economic revolution like Sankara did. That's not to say that it's not coming, but definitely I think it's too early to say, are they the same? Who is more this or who is more that? Ibrahim's story is definitely still being written, but I still wanted to make this video because I think it's very important. It's a very key timestamp in history so that we keep watching this space. And also for me, it was very fun to research and get to know more about Thomas Sankara. Let me know. I'm sure there are many things I have missed that I didn't put in the video, but let me know, share them in the comment section below. I am going to pause here in this video. Thank you so much for staying to the end. I look forward to reading your comments, and I look forward to seeing and hearing more things that for you stand out about Thomas Sankara. Yeah, in the meantime, stay safe out there. I will see you in my next video.